I'm a big left brainer, so every day I'm refreshing on all of the sites to see if the data is final for December. Unfortunately, it's not final. It's probably not going to be final for at least another week. So all of the information that we're going to go through today is going to be the data from year to date through November of 2021. Every time we get the new data in, we update it. So that's why a lot of people follow us to figure out, okay, what happened in the markets? Are the numbers finally out there? So I will tell you that for 2021, this is the best year ever. And I say it's the best year ever on repeat because 2021 we put up the best numbers that we had ever seen. And Texas has consistently been growing since Texas came out of the market cycle in 2012. So we've had consistently year over year increases in both sales volumes as well as increases in average price. And that was the exact same way for 2021. So the 2021, the full year forecast for sales, because we're still closing out December, we expect that number to be up somewhere around 8, maybe as high as 9%. And it would be significantly higher if we had what? This is the interactive part. I can hear you breathing. I know you're out there. Yes. Inventory. Yeah. Do you think we'd sell a few more houses if we had a little bit more inventory? And, what does that look like? In all of Texas, I think we could probably double our inventory and still be very much in a strong seller's market. Here in Austin specifically, I think we could probably triple, if not quadruple our inventory and still be in a seller's market. And I'll prove that out to you as we go through the presentation. The 2021 year-over-year sales price forecast expected to be up 18% and may even edge to about 19% as we're finishing out all of those December sales numbers. So a very strong year in terms of sales price. When I first started investing in real estate and up through my first 10 years in real estate, the average price increases were usually about 5-6%, right? That was about it. And that felt pretty good. And the usual year-over-year sales increases were somewhere between 3 to 7%, and that typically felt pretty good. But over the last several years, we've been able to do significantly better than that. So it feels really good, especially for those of us who have a little buy and hold properties in our portfolios as well. So as we look into, now that we're in 2022, the full year forecast for 2022, we expect that sales volume to only be up 5%. Again, I only say that because, and sir, whenever I look at you, you're just going to say the word inventory. Yeah, just whenever I look at you, just say inventory. He's like, I say what? No, not what. Say inventory. Yeah, okay. Thank you. So I think we could sell again, double or triple this number if we had the inventory of homes for sale. Now, I think 2022, the price forecast will probably be up at least 20%, if not more, because the people that are moving here, are they price sensitive or are they price insensitive? They're insensitive, right? It's like, every call you get is, I have, a buyer who has all cash and wants to close. Now is good. And so is now, right? And that's allowed that price to float. So cash buyers have allowed that price to float, as well as having a pretty low interest rate, a really low interest rate. So that's also allowed those prices to float as well. So when we look at the sales data for all of Texas, so I'll do a roll up and then I'll break down each of the individual markets. And I'll point out some of the highlights. So November of 2021 versus November of 2020, the average sales price in all of Texas was up 15%. The closed sales volume was up 3%. And again, it would have been higher had we had more inventory. Our total active listings were down 21% year over year. If you look at it versus what it was in, for example, 2019, our active listings are down probably closer to about 50 to 60%. So it's not abnormal for us to have about 100,000 listings in Texas. Right now, we're at less than 50,000, which puts us at a 1.4 month supply of inventory. So many of you guys are probably familiar with the concept of days on market. Maybe few of you are familiar with the concept of months of inventory. So months of inventory, the way that I could best describe that is, if we stopped listing houses today, based on the buyer demand that we've had over the last 12 months, right? The average monthly buyer demand that we've had over the last 12 months. If we stop listing houses today, we would be out of an inventory of homes for sale in exactly 1.4 months is what the number here is in Texas. Our 40-year average in terms of months of inventory is closer to 6 to 6.5 months of inventory. So we're running at about 20%, right, of what our normal inventory is. And we have been running at this level for more than the last 2 years. So it wasn't just a worldwide, upending of everything that caused this to happen, but that didn't, but that did extend it, number one, and it did increase it, or actually decrease the total months of inventory, number two. So, and again, normally in a typical market, if you stop listing houses today based on the buyer demand over the last 12 months, we would have 6 months before we would be completely out of an inventory of homes for sale. Right now at 1.4 months, this makes it very much a seller's market. And that's why you're seeing those big jumps in that average price. Year-to-date data for sales up 7% in all of Texas, and the year-to-date average sales price up 18.5%. And San Antonio, which is where a lot of people from Austin go to be able to find deals, or I'll say, I want to kind of use that term kind of loosely. There are deals in Austin, they just cost more, right? There are deals in San Antonio, they just cost less, right? You can make as much money in either of these markets. You just have to be comfortable with the purchase price of the initial purchase price, and you have to purchase it with enough margin to be able to be successful and to be able to make money off of it. But it's funny. I hear people say all the time, like, oh, Austin is too expensive. I'm going to San Antonio. But it's like, Austin has always been too expensive. Anyone who's lived here for more than 20 or 30 years knows that if you look at Dallas or San Antonio or Fort Worth or Houston, Austin has always been more expensive than those markets. Now, does anybody have any regrets about investing here? No, because if you're buying it right, it doesn't necessarily matter what the purchase price is. But I do see a lot of investors float down to San Antonio, and I've bought many properties myself in San Antonio as well. But the truth is, you don't need to if you're investing in Austin. And again, we'll talk a lot about marketing as we go through the presentation today as well. In San Antonio, that average price was $356,000, up 16%. Months of inventory in San Antonio, 1.3 months of inventory. Pending sales. So I didn't mention this in the Texas roll-up, but pending sales are our closest leading indicator to what closed sales will be for the next month. So pending sales up 7% bodes really well for the December closed sales. Year-to-date sales in San Antonio up 5%. Year-to-date average price up 16%. So in Austin, you see that number, and we did see it at one point this year. Hit $600,000 for that average price. Last month, it was almost $586,000, up 27% versus where we were the same time last year. Closed sales were down. So sometimes I see, whenever I say closed sales were down in Austin, and sometimes in Dallas, that happens as well. I see this look in people's eyes in Austin. It's like, is it over? Can I get my parking validated? It's not over, okay? So remember, as we were closing out the end of 2020, we were in a market that, because we were shut down for March, April, May, and some of June, right? Even though real estate was essential, the typical distribution curve, right, of sales was very different. And so we blew out the last part of the month with an increase of sales that we did not match in 2021. The distribution curve of 2021 looks more like a typical distribution curve in terms of when the sales volume hits, right? January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, okay? When you look at 2020, it's more January, February, March, April, May, June. You can't even see, okay, you can see that April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So it kept going towards the end of the year. So it's not really, it's not a fair comparison. Even though year-to-date sales are still up in Austin, up 3%. So no, it's not over. Know that it's more effective to compare 2021 in terms of the distribution curve to 2019. And we always compare year over year. So we look at the same month because of that distribution curve situation, but it's just very different for how it looked at the end of last year. Year-to-date average price in Austin up 30%. So, for anyone who says it's too expensive in Austin, well, if you would have just bought one house in Austin and held onto it for just the average house, you have been up in value 30%. So on a $300,000 house, you have been up in value $90K, which is, last time I counted, I think that's real money still, right? Yes, yeah. So don't look at something and just say it's too expensive. Really understand how your profits look at the end of the day as well. For the Dallas and Fort Worth market, average price up 15% to $413,000. Closed sales last month were up 4%, but if you look at the bottom half of that graph, year-to-date sales in Dallas through November were down 1%. Now with, again, going back up to the top part of that graph where you see pending sales up 3%, there's a possibility that Dallas is going to end flat versus where it was in 2020. But it's probably going to be in that, maybe up a 0.25% to maybe down, 0.5%. At best, it's going to be pretty much flat, which is what I'm thinking it's going to end up being. Total active listings in Dallas down 22%. Again, that number normally looks like something in the 30s or 40,000 listings there. And that's why you see that months of inventory at 1.4 months of inventory. Again, Dallas would sell more houses if Dallas had more houses, just like most of the rest of Texas as well. In the Houston market has probably performed the best this year in terms of overall sales. Not as good as Austin in terms of overall price, but a very strong market. Average price $384,000, up 13%. Closed sales last month up 4%, 1.6 months of inventory. Pending sales, look at that pending sales number. Holy cow, up 19%. That's a big number. So that's going to bode really well for how Houston ends the year in terms of total sales. And average price up 15% in Houston. So all of the major markets throughout Texas have ended the year really well. And I'll put out the final numbers for December probably in the next 7 to 10 days. So I'm waiting for all of the major MLSs across the state to be able to close. So I want to make sure I get you the final numbers. And I'm excited to be able to share that with you guys. And guys, as we go through the presentation, I have a little bit of a special announcement for all of you guys. So, and this kind of has to do with the way that we run the Real Estate Investor Association. So when we first started in investing and we joined our local REIA, we ran we started our local REIA. We ran our Real Estate Investor Association the way that every single Real Estate Investor Association has ever been run, which is we would get together every single month and we talk about real estate and we talk about strategies, talk about what was working right now and what was not working right now. And basically, after somewhere between 1 to 3 years of hanging out with us for 3.5 hours, every single month, you'd have enough information to be a real estate investor, right? But I don't think most people want to wait somewhere between 1 year to 3 years to get all the information that they need to be a real estate investor. So what we have done is we've created a workshop for the members of our association where we download all of those 3 years, if you will, of being a real estate investor into one weekend. And as the last 2 years have kind of caused us to rethink how we fulfill membership as part of the Real Estate Investor Association, and specifically change it from, hey, come back to every single REIA meeting and get additional knowledge to, hey, just come to one of our workshops and we're going to give it all to you over the course of that one weekend so that you're ready to go. Because I think most of you, when you say, I want to be a real estate investor, now is good and so is now, right? So we're going to combine it all into one weekend. And the way that we teach, and as you guys get to meet and spend some time with my husband, and some of you guys saw our real estate investor blueprint, right? You're going to be learning from a left brainer. So what that means for you guys is we break down all of the concepts in a step-by-step format that you can actually put into place in your business. So when we first started investing in real estate and we went to some trainings, there was a lot of rah. And I'm like, I'm a left brainer. I don't need the rah. I already got the get up and go. Like, I just need the how to, right? And so that's how we teach, because that's how we wanted to be taught when we first started investing. So that's what we do as part of this training. And we talk about these several different real estate investing strategies that we use. So I mentioned earlier, I just want to make money every single time the phone rings. So we're going to talk about strategies that you can use for instances where there's a lot of equity. And we'll talk about strategies that we'll use in instances where there's not a lot of equity, little, no, or negative equity, because that's how you make it during a down market and not just an up market. And I don't know about you guys, but when I stopped updating my resume, I did not want to go back to work for anybody else. So you have to know not just how to navigate the market that we're in currently, but how to market all future markets, right? So that's one of the things that we spend a lot of time teaching without any of the cheerleading sessions in there. So we're all about the how-to. Teaching the 65 different marketing strategies. Probably one of my favorite things is our closing scripts. So I talked to you guys about exactly what to say for the real estate agent. I talked to you guys about Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. And then on top of that, for Phil and myself, we've talked to over 1,000 homeowners. Do you think we've learned a couple of things about the typical objections? Like, I know what all of the objections are, and I know how to overcome all of the objections, because all of the objections are the same. So we're going to go through the scripts that will allow you to put a property under contract and actually make it to the finish line, because sometimes even if you have a property under contract, you don't make it to the finish line for different reasons than you might think. So we'll talk about those as well. And then we'll introduce you to some of the other local members of the association, people that we personally partner with, and other local experts, boots on the ground. We'll talk about access to funding, because there is no good deal that goes unfunded as part of Texas REIAs. We have so many both hard money lenders as well as private money lenders, as well as people that even use their self-directed IRA to invest in real estate. So for my husband and I, we use our self-directed IRA, an old 401k turned self-directed IRA, to buy rental properties, to lend to other real estate investors, and to buy some of the assets that we hold in multifamily as well. And you could get registered for this right now at texasstarterkit.com. And something that we decided to do back in March of 2020, and this is kind of pushing my limits right now, but I told my husband, I said, listen, I want to do this presentation, this 3-day class, for free, as long as we're all still wearing masks. And I think at this point, you guys are just wearing a mask, so I'm going to continue to do it for free. But at some point, when people stop wearing masks, then we're going to start charging for it, because that's what we used to do before as well. But while it is free, and we're probably going to continue through this first quarter of 2022, love to have you guys attend. We have a little QR code here that you guys can click on to be able to join us. And I'll tell you, we've got several different real estate investor meetings coming up. In fact, we have one coming up live this weekend in Dallas. And I'll tell you that we don't have many seats available for that one, because it is this coming weekend, and we've already have it mostly sold out. So if when you go to texasstarterkit.com, you don't see it on there as an option, know that it's sold out, because it is this coming weekend. That being said, we also have one in Houston, January 14, 15, and 16. And then we have one here in Austin, January 28th, 29th, and 30th. And the way that we're doing it is very similar to the way that we're doing it right now. So we do a live, hybrid, or simulcast. So we'll have people in the room, and we'll make sure this table spacing is nice and sufficient to make sure you guys stay safe. And I just ordered about 1,000 handy wipes, Kleenexes, little personal tissue bags, and hand sanitizer to make sure you guys are all safe as well. But you guys will be able to either do it in person, or you guys can join us online. So either way is up to you. And we do have some people who will come online on Friday because they don't want to take a day off of their job, and then join us live and in person on Saturday and Sunday. And you're welcome to kind of do a hybrid yourself if you want to. But welcome you guys to join us at any of these different meetings that we've got coming up. We're doing what we call a Texas tour in January, because we know that most people decide they want to do something different when they have their resolutions of what they want to do next. It's typically in January. So love to to be of service to you guys, love to help you along your real estate investing journey. For those of you guys who are gotten familiar over the last year with QR codes, if you want to pull out your camera, you can snap this QR code or just go to your browser on your phone and go to texasstarterkit.com to be able to get registered for it. We do have a couple little bonuses on there for you as well. And that is one of the things that we've been able to do as part of Texas REIAs is help you guys build your own personal blueprint. So we showed you ours of how we run our real estate investing business, but we've got a couple of questions that we're going to ask you to run through as part of Texas Starter Kit so we know where you are on your real estate investing journey. And so we know what we can do to be able to help and assist you along that journey as well. Because one of the things that we love to do is answer your questions. And I don't want any of you guys to be shy as we get through, as we join in the class together. To be able to ask those different questions. We want to make it really powerful for you guys as you go through. So I am about to hand over the training to my husband.